Welcome to Flourish in 5. My name is Heather Lottinen, and every Friday I share a story, a lesson, or a quick idea with the goal of helping you gain a new perspective. Could you please leave a review, subscribe, and share with your friends? I would really appreciate it. Last evening, we had a wonderful dinner with my aunt and uncle who live in Washington State. We live in Pittsburgh, PA, so obviously we don't get to see them that often. My uncle is my mom's younger brother. So my mom is one of 8. Mom is second in line, and my uncle, I believe, was 4th or 5th. Anyway, he started sharing this story last evening about how in 1st grade, he was asking my mom, do you remember our teacher in 1st grade? And he really struggled because actually he had 5 teachers in 1st grade that were having trouble with staffing, I assume. This is in the 60s. And he didn't do really well. So when he went into 2nd grade, he was already a little bit behind. And one day, his mom and dad went in for a parent-teacher conference. This is at the beginning of the year. Think like open house time. And the teacher was telling his mom, my grandma, that essentially he wasn't doing very well. So what she planned on doing was putting him in the back row, in the back corner desk, and she would deal with him next year because she planned on failing him, holding him back, and having him go through 2nd grade again. Keeping in mind, this is probably in the September timeframe. So this is at the beginning of the year, which means this teacher did not even give my uncle a chance. And my grandma was like, okay, thanks. No. So could you please send home some books so we can tutor him at home? So, and by the way, my uncle heard all of this and knew because the teacher had told him that he wasn't very bright, that he was slower than the rest, that he was going to struggle, essentially that he was stupid. So he being a 2nd grader, so this is probably what, maybe he's 8 years old. Of course, he believed that. So she sends all of the books home, and my grandma starts tutoring him in a couple of subjects, and my mom tutors him in the other subject. So the first 3 siblings in my mom's family were labeled as really smart, like book smart. My mom ended up being the valedictorian of her nursing school class, and my uncles and my aunts did very well. So this is a, quote, smart family. And my uncle was not fitting into that narrative, but grandma was determined. So mom was tutoring him, and mom said to grandma one day, I actually think he's really smart. He's doing really well. And he's, essentially much smarter than the teacher is giving him credit for. Well, he overheard this, and he said to me, he was telling me last night in a very serious tone of voice, he said, that was absolutely one of the most defining moments in my life, and I will never forget it for a couple of reasons. One is, he said, in our family, we just didn't pass out compliments really freely. And he figured that if mom was telling grandma he was smart, he must be smart. So he identified as smart. And do you know that he went on to get his PhD in environmental engineering? He's now retired, but did many amazing things in his career, many accomplishments because of that one defining moment. Now, who knows what would have happened had he continued to play into the narrative of I'm stupid, had he been held back in 2nd grade and not given the chance. Can you imagine? Well, my mom at 75 years old was just hearing this story last night for the first time. Of course, she remembers tutoring him, and she said she vaguely remembers saying that to her mom. But I talked to her this morning and I said, how did that feel to hear that you had such a pivotal, an important role at a pivotal moment in his life? And she said, I couldn't believe it. It was just so affirming. And she said, my love language is words of affirmation. And to hear something like that, it's almost overwhelming. She started to get a little bit emotional. She said, I just had no idea I had that impact on him. And I said, well, that's because we have an impact on people that we don't even realize. And there's absolutely the ripple effect, but especially our children. Our children believe what we tell them, no matter what it is, no matter if it's right, wrong, true, false, good, bad, indifferent, they will believe it. So why not start telling your children that they are smart, they're amazing, they're gifted, they're talented, they're wise, they make good decisions. Why not drill that into their little brains right now so that they believe it and build their lives based on that narrative instead of possibly another one? Have you ever known anyone in your life? I have, who was maybe not given that, and they were told that they were not smart, or that they were worthless, or didn't have any common sense, or wouldn't amount to anything. And then they don't, and everybody's surprised, but that's what they were told. I think it's so important to speak to our children in a way that is edifying and uplifting. When my kids were little, I'm specifically telling a story about Evan right now. He's now almost 14. I would tuck him in at night and we would pray. And I would say to him, you are a beautiful, wonderful creation of God. You are a wise leader. You make good decisions. You are a beautiful, wonderful creation of God. You are a wise leader. You make good decisions. I would say that over and over. Okay, listen, he was, I did this probably starting when he was a toddler through his early elementary years in school. And he was 100% not making good decisions or acting as a wise leader. Not at all. He was a kid. So imagine my surprise. I think he was in second or third grade when he brings home this note from his teacher that says, Evan has been selected to participate in the leadership club. I almost fell out of my chair. I showed it to my husband and I said, my insanity works. Look at this. I would have never thought that he could have done that, but that's not fair to tell him that, is it? So I told him what he could become, and he became it. So if you have children, I wonder if you could start edifying them, giving them something good to build their foundation upon. If you do not have children, if you are around younger little people, maybe you have nieces and nephews or cousins, or you're at church. I do this all the time. I was actually with a friend a couple of years ago out to dinner with her family, and her husband was talking about how he gets migraines and he's prone to migraines. And she has her son, who I think at the time, I want to say was around 9, is just one of the most brilliant kids I've ever met. He's so introspective and thoughtful, and you could see the wheels turning. And after his dad shared this story, he said, wait, Mom, does that mean I'm going to get migraines? Because I'm like Dad, and so I'm probably going to get migraines, right? And without skipping a beat, I said, oh my goodness, no, you are absolutely not going to get migraines. And then I cited some genetic work. Like I was making this up, you guys. It was a bunch of mumbo jumbo, but I said, no, it's just like you have a different color eyes than your dad. So you're not going to get migraines. Just because you are like your dad in some areas does not mean that you will be like him in this area. So no. And I said it with such authority and confidence, like, no, you will never get migraines. It's not a thing that happens to you, that I'm hopeful that it never happens to him. Okay, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but what does it hurt to try? So could you give someone in your life some words of affirmation? Now, this works really well for children, because if you tell them this and drill it into their brains, they'll believe it. But what happens if you're an adult and you were given a narrative that doesn't serve you? Like maybe you were the one that was told you were stupid, or you were lazy, or you wouldn't amount to anything. There's actually a modality in therapy called narrative therapy, where you examine that and you rewrite the narrative. It takes work, of course, but if you recognize it, if you're like, oh man, I'm the adult that now is living my life based on what everybody fed me, and it wasn't good. So you can absolutely shift that. You're just going to have to pay attention, acknowledge it, and do the work. But in the meantime, hopefully you can be helping to uplift all of the young people in your life. I hope that you found this useful. I'll see you in the next episode.